this is Kitty with Kitty Copenhagen Designs, and today I am going to go over how I made this card using our brand new Colorista pencils by Spectrum Noir. So we have carried the tri-blend markers for a while, close to my heart, but these colored pencils are blendable. They're not watercolors like we used to carry. And so these I've actually really loved working with. They're really nice. And this card was made with this Floral Note stamp and thin cuts. And whenever I have a thin cut, if I'm making something, I tend to make a lot of extras. I figure as long as I've got my machine out and I'm running some through, I might as well make some extras so that the next time I'm doing a project, I can more quickly grab one. So I did that here, so I'm going to grab that. And I also have another consultant, Jacqueline Peach from, I think she's from Australia, made this and shared it with us. And so the Colorista pencils come in a bright and vivid pack, a perfect portrait pack, and a natural landscapes pack. You'll find them in the Essentials catalog, which just came out in September. Let me see if I can just really quickly find them here. They're at a really nice price point. So I have 2 packs so far, and I'll probably throw on the third one. And of course, oh, here they are. And of course, the I don't remember what I was just going to say. So I started out with the Bright and Vivid, which is what I'll be using today. And then last time I had an order, I picked up the Natural Landscape. And then at some point here, I'll get the Perfect Portrait ones. But they are $6.95 per pack. So that's, you know, to me, that's a really, really good deal. You can do a colored pencil bundle for $20.85 and just get all 3. So, but I had gotten this pack in the convention bundle. So whenever Close to My Heart does their convention for their consultants, we get like a bundle of products, and this one was already in, so the bundle didn't really work for me. So, and then I've just taken them and I've done little swatches. So I've made really dark, and then, you know, kind of a medium, and then a light, and then we can blend these colors together, which I'll show you today. So I'm going to set that aside for a second, and this is the card. So I think what I'm going to do first is I'm going to stamp this, and then I'm going to get this set up so I can see the space I'm working with here. I don't want to do this yet because I want to make sure that, I mean, I could mark that off, but I just figured I might as well get that set up. So these are my pieces I'm working with. Now, this is our new rosy color, and I'm at home and I didn't happen to have that with me. So I'm going to mix in this orange, which I thought was really pretty with it too. I think that'll be fine. This is the new Journey color. And then this piece, we're going to just kind of do a random stamp on with Journey ink. So I've got my block here and my Journey ink. I'm going to peel off. Now you'll see this stamp I used at my open house that I did, and I've made a bunch of cards with it. So it is well loved already, and you can see that. But you know what? Whenever these, I've used archival ink on these, which is the deepest black ink, and it really does stain your stamps. But it does not make any difference for the use of them. They will still stamp beautifully. Now you'll see I kind of like rolled that on. Sometimes you'll get a little air bubble underneath your stamp, and I didn't want that to happen, so I kind of roll it down on there so I'm not getting any air underneath there. This does not need to be seasoned because I've used it a bunch of times, but if it was brand new, I would want to rub it on my hand or stamp it on the ink and then stamp off several times to get it seasoned, we call that. I'm also going to you know, I think what I'll do, because I don't often do this, but I'll show you, and I'm going to just flip my Versamat over. The back of my Versamat has this foamy surface so that I can stamp on it. It would be the same thing as using the foam insert that comes with your stamp set. It just helps you, gives a little cushion and helps you to get a nice stamp. I also am using, I'm stamping on a very, very nice solid surface, so that helps me get a good stamp image. But so I always say if you're stamping at you're at a crop or something and you're at one of those plastic tables, those can be really bad. They actually are kind of warped, and you can have a little trouble getting a nice clean image on those tables. So sometimes I'll try to go someplace where I can you know, over to someplace that has a counter or something, or use my VersaPad, or two VersaPads stacked one on top of another can help to get that image. So, all right, so I'm inking this up in the Journey, and I'm going to stamp that like so, and then I'm going to do it one more time. I'm just going to turn it a little so it doesn't look the same. And so that will just be like that. And I'm going to set that aside for a second. And then on this card, I'm going to go ahead and adhere down this orange piece. Our cardstock is double-sided. It has a light side and a dark side. To be honest, I think this is Nectarine. We used to have a color called Tangerine as well, but I believe this is Nectarine, which is a retired color, but it actually, I believe, is still available. A lot of times our retired colors are still available online. So they might not show up in a catalog, but if you go to the online section of my website, you can find different colors there. So I'm going to go ahead and adhere that one down, and I see that one's just a tiny bit longer, but I'll trim that off in a second. And then I'm going to, so this side I want to, some colors, the dark and the light is really obvious, and others not so much, so you just want to make sure you're using the side you intended to use. Now I'm going to layer this. I didn't have a piece of really, really thin white, and I thought, you know what, I'm just gonna do that and layer it up. Oh, and you know what, I didn't quite get that. This is one of the things I tell people that I do like about this mono, I'll just take that again, air permanent adhesive, is it does give you just a second to peel it back up if you've made a mistake and reposition. And then I give it a really good press, and then it becomes permanent. So I do like that. So I'm just going to trim off that tiny bit. The other thing that I'm loving lately is this little tool caddy, close to my heart. Just started carrying this. Oops. These are like little rubbery spots here, and so you can place a pen. I know I'm going to be using this, so I can just pop this in here, my scissors, a pencil, anything that you're currently working with, and then it doesn't get buried in your workspace, and you can grab it when you need it. So I have been really liking that. So I'm just going to trim this little tiny piece off right here. Make sure I got that. Okay, so now that is set up, and then I have a better idea of where I want this, because I'm going to do this background stamping and a little blending, and then I'll work on that. So as long as I still have my Journey ink on here, I'm going to go ahead and do that. So I'm going to first ink this up. And whenever I stamp, I kind of walk, I usually twist a little bit, and then sometimes I'll even turn it. I want to just really make sure it's nice and inked up. I'm going to bring it right over here to my Versamat, and then I'm going to stamp here. Give that a good press. Make sure I'm on my screen here. And then I'm going to ink it up again. I'm going to turn it, and I want it to peek out over here. I give that a good press. Okay, And so this middle doesn't matter because that's going to get covered up with this one. So now I'm going to take my chamois and get my Journey ink off because I'm going to switch to our Intense Black. Now I just re-inked my Intense Black. I always tell you that this Intense Black is a little bit of a misnomer. It's really not very intense. It's a little bit more light, but it is a solvent-based permanent ink. I believe the archival, this one doesn't say. I believe the archival is also solvent-based. It doesn't say here, but the nice thing about this is that if I'm going to be coloring, now this is colored pencil, so I probably could just use my regular black ink. But if you're working with tri-blend markers, watercolors, anything like that, you don't, this will bleed. So if I add water to this, this will bleed. So the solvent-based won't. So that's why we do that. Okay, so now I gotta find my little, so this is my die cut. I like to die cut and then stamp on top of it. One of the biggest reasons why I like doing that is because when I die cut, I usually cut 2 at a time. It's just faster, and I like doing it that way. So I'm really, especially with the black, I'm really inking it up. So my close to my heart ink pads that I've had, I've been a consultant for, I think this is my 14th year, 13 or 14. And I've had inks that I've had from the very beginning. I've even had like the old style inks like this. I have never re-inked these, and they just have lasted and lasted for me. This I have re-inked several times. So I do buy the re-inker for this. And okay, we're gonna stamp this. And so so the problem of doing this on white is that it's a little harder for me to see. So I'm going to put it on this surface, which is black, and then I can more easily see where my stamp is going. Okay, so then this is going to sit on top of here like so. So while this is drying for 1 second, I'm going to take my little blending brush here, and I'm just going to give this a little blending with the Journey ink. So because this isn't going to matter, because this is going to be covered, I'm going to start right there, and then I'm just going to blend out. And I just want this to be really soft, not a ton. So it's nice to have like a little landing spot. All right, that's probably good. Maybe just a little bit more like right here. Now off the edge just a little. Yeah, so that's just like that soft shadow kind of behind it. Okay, so now is when I'm going to do some color pencil work. And I'm going to use the Bright and Vivid. The thing I love about these pencils, one thing, is just the feel of them. I don't even know how to describe that. They just, whatever this cover is, they just feel really nice in your hand. And I think that that makes a big difference. They all are marked with their colors. And so that's why I make this little chart, is that if I want to go back and remember, I can kind of look and I see I probably use the Sunburst Yellow and the Orange Citrus and a little bit of the Ruby, and then this Lime or Fresh Green for the greens. So you could choose to use whatever you wanted, but so maybe I'll start with the Fresh Green and just do a little bit. Now, one of the things that they taught us at convention was if you are starting, let me just grab, and this is the first time you've picked this up to use it, you want to kind of get a flat spot. So you want to just take a minute and this is probably shaking, sorry, and color so that you get that little flat spot. Because what's nice about these versus the watercolor pencils is that they don't you don't get the lines. I don't know if you've noticed that with the watercolor pencils. Usually with the watercolor pencils, if I colored in a bigger area and I got those lines, I would then take a little paintbrush and go over it. So, and then I'm gonna just blend a little harder at my base and up that line. So I'm kind of going deeper in my color here and then bringing that up just to give a little shading and depth to that. And so these are just smoother. You don't get those lines. And so on these leaves, I'm going to do just really, really light. And then I'll go back over with just a little bit. So you can blend other colors too, or just using the pressure, you can make little darker, lighter, and medium areas and get kind of different colors out of um, the same pencil. So that's nice too. So you can go just a little darker where it would be a little shaded, and then on those veins of the leaves, I can do that. All right, and then we'll come to this leaf and I'll do the same thing. And if I had like all the colors here, I could do more, but I think sometimes, you know, it's a card. I want it to be pretty, but it's not, I don't need to spend hours and hours on it, although you may want to. Okay, so here again, I'm gonna go a little darker at the area that I feel like would be a little more in the shadows, and then I'm gonna come up on these veins. And then my last bit of green is gonna be these last little leaves. It's funny, sometimes when I watch other people's videos too, there's something a little mesmerizing about watching someone color. Depends on my mood. Sometimes I'll just fast forward. So if you end up fast forwarding over this to see the final result, I don't mind. Okay, so now this one, I'm gonna go over, and I already have my flat spot. I'm gonna go over both flowers with this lemony yellow. Or actually, what is this called? Sunburst yellow. It's a nice bright yellow. But then we'll see, I'm going to go over it a bit with some orange to just blend and make it a little more sunflowery, because typically sunflowers aren't this bright yellow. And maybe in one of those other, I think I didn't look on here. I don't really have another, you know, I could maybe use some of this oak tree or this chestnut brown to blend in, but and the other one might have something I would use. But I liked the way this turned out, so it'll be fine. All right, and then I'm just going to give this a quick once over here because I'm going to go in with the blending on this as well. Sometimes with these kinds of flowers, you have to figure out what is the petal of a flower and what is part of a leaf, and but I'm just kind of giving this a once over. And they're just very like smooth, and I don't know if you probably can't see, I'll show you up close in just a second, that you're not getting those lines, which I don't like with the watercolors, so I'm very pleased with this. So I don't know if you can see that we don't have like those lines, and it looks really nice. Okay, so now I'm gonna go in with the citrus orange, and I'm gonna blend in the center of my sunflower. So I want that, and then I'm gonna start to blend up a little bit in these petals, just kind of bringing that color up from the center. To give that kind of more of an orangey yellow feel to it. And I'm going to go up in here a little bit, and you can see I'm not being like super careful. Just kind of giving it a little extra color here. And then on this one, I'm going to kind of come in and maybe I'm trying to remember if I want a little bit of that fiery red, maybe. Trying to find my little flat spot here. So I'm going to speed up the video here for a couple minutes while I finish coloring in the flowers, just adding some details to the petals, adding some darker shades in to just give it some depth. I'm using, I believe it's a peacock color to match that Journey ink, and adding in the little berries and a kind of thistle-like flower. And then going back over with that darker orange just again to give it some difference. And then coming back to my card, I'm going to use my cheapy fun foam that has comes in sheets of 8.5 by 11. I think I just ordered it on Amazon, and I can just keep snipping away at it. I use it for cards. I'm not 100% sure that it's acid free, but for a card, I don't think it needs to be. You can cut it to any size that you need for a project, and it has one adhesive side, so you can just peel off the backing and add it to your project. And then I just use either liquid glue or my tape runner to add adhesive to the other side. In this case, I'm using my Barely Art glue that I love, and just adhering that to right to that center so it covers up that blotchy spot where we overlaid that stamped image of the flowers. Just giving that a second to dry. And then we need to add our sentiment, and in this case I'm going back to this Floral Notes stamp set in thin cuts and adding Missing You. And I'm going to use the Journey ink. I'm just going to peel that sentiment off. It's nice to grab a block that's closer in size to your stamp that you're using. And you do have to be careful with these little tiny stamps. When you ink them up, you don't want to press too hard into your ink pad. You want to be a little bit gentle, but I do slightly rock it back and forth just to make sure if there is a little like the Y that drops down in the font, that you make sure you get your, the tops and the bottoms and the sides and all inked up, but without making it sploochy. And then the same thing when we press it down, we want to press firmly, but not too hard, just to get that nice, clear stamped image. So even pressure, and sometimes it helps to just try it on a piece of scratch paper a couple of times. I like using my little piercing tool to grab these are Journey glitter gems, and I'm just adding a couple to the card here. And I'm just noticing that I got ink on my colored cardstock there from my hand. And that's because I must have gotten it on that mat and then I didn't realize that. So it is always good to check your surfaces and make sure you don't have ink places that you didn't mean for ink to be. And then this is just not coming off. So I'm just going to go ahead and use, this is actually a tool from Creative Memories. I know Close to My Heart has one too, but I believe ours is just not quite as thin. And this one actually works a little bit better. So I'm just going to peel that off. It's amazing how when you try to just pull something up, you can tear. But if you get something, I've sometimes used my Cricut spatula too to get underneath something and pull it back up. You can get that to come up. So just adding a little bit more adhesive here. And instead of cutting this to the right size, I'm just going to go ahead and bump it up against that little white piece that we stamped and press that down. Then I can just turn my card over and use my microtip scissors to trim off that edge. The microtip scissors are one of my all-time favorite products. If you've been around me for a while, you know I say that all the time, but they really are. And that about finishes it up for this card. I really do like the way the orange accentuated the journey, but I like the rosy as well. So if you would take a minute to like and subscribe to my channel, I would so appreciate it. And here's a couple other examples of cards from Close to My Heart made with the same stamp set. Have a great day.